you can hear the honk on every note. Whereas if I just move from there to there, and that's just on pickup, and then I always run both, and then that dips that honky mid out. Completely different sounds, and I've done almost nothing. Amazing, but yeah, I can't do that for very long before my fingers go, excuse me, do you mind? Unless I've been touring every day for 3 weeks and then suddenly I've got rocks for hands. Because I do a lot of production and not as much bass as I would like, my fingers go soft and princessy, so I have to do what's easy for me.
Yeah, you have the same problem building. Like you get, like in some point in a build, it's normally quite early on when things are going really well. I get in earlier, I leave later, which means my actual playing sort of wanes over that time.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, it's like another 2 weeks after that, and you pick up the guitar again, and you're like, ooh, fingers are a little bit softer than they were before, but yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, well, this is the last day of the British Boutique Guitar Festival, and my fingers are starting to toughen up a bit now, but on the first day, by the end of it, I was bending strings and going, ah! Like, yeah, little princess hands. Seem to have improved there. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Jaeger. This is the Pioneer and a couple of custom models from Lewis LT Custom Guitars. Hi!
Hello. And
so, yeah, I'm cutting the video a bit weird because we were talking about basses and gauges and positions and all sorts of stuff before Michiel said, we should probably record this. Which, yeah, good shout.
You shouldn't cut it. Just start with what the people who are now watching already saw.
And now I'm going to cut it in again so you can see it again, so you can see what I was talking about. But yeah, most of the guitars at the show from Lewis are guitars. This was a commission, yes, the Jaeger. So this was not built specifically for the festival. This is one of your clients has gracefully lends us this for the show. And so it's a bit of a beast, this 5-string. Look at the flame on that neck. Let's use Henning cam, which refuses to focus because I have eyes. There we go.
Perfect.
That flaming is absolutely wonderful.
the other thing I mean, it's darkened down a bit now, but the quilt maple fingerboard, when it was first done, obviously it's had a lot of playtime now as such, but it's one of them things as a when you're playing it, you're not going to notice it because you're looking over, and the best way to see quilt is from straight on. So when the customer came and picked it up and played it, like, I don't know, like an hour at the studio, I was just staring at this fingerboard when it was brand new. Yeah. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. And then that's a one-piece sported beech top, which is a bit, body. The whole body is sported beech, but it looks, with the zone lines, it looks like different bits of wood have been clamped together. Now, interestingly, I thought this was heavy. So
it is a bit
It's
heavy.
a weight to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can't help that with beech if you think people have their kitchen counters made out of it sometimes. But I was like, this is what you wanted. I've got some reservations about the weight. When I did the mock-up, it's like, look, come and see this, because if we've got a chain belt or something, I need to resaw the top off and, we'll take some weight out of it. He picked up, he's like, oh, this is much lighter than what I've been using. And I was thinking, what on earth have you been using?
Yeah, that happens to bass players. I've had basses before where I've taken it off after a 20-minute first opening set, and my shoulders got compression scars. It's like 14-pound instruments or whatever they are. And so, this is a little on the heavy side, but it's a 5. And as such, you kind of take that in your stride a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, as well, we could have got the weight down using a different wood for the body.
Henning's opening his breakfast live on camera.
Is that brioche?
At least do it in front of the camera. Pan au chocolat.
Lovely sound effects.
That's going in the sound effect library. Thanks, Henning. I might make a tuned sample library out of that. But yeah, this is a beautiful instrument. So I'm guessing it's volume, tone, classic passive.
Yeah, again,
jazz bass setup.
That's what he wanted. I threw all kinds of ideas at him, and he was like, I'm not that complicated. Just, and I was like, fine. It does, makes no difference to me if that's what you want. And then the Seymour Duncan quarter pounders or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
That was his choice again. I kind of like the look of the big pole pieces. They look cool.
They're a known quantity. If you know you like a jazz bass sound, it's just that with a bit more. And there's nothing wrong with that. These strings are not the newest.
No.
And I'm going through the Engel Iron Ball SE, which is probably getting upset with me. But it sounds decent. This is both pickups. It's a nice tone. And of course, the bridge. That's very nice. And of course, just the neck, which I use quite a lot with a drive pedal. That's got that grrr to it, which I like very much. But yeah, this is a wonderful instrument, and hopefully we'll be seeing something a little while on my channel that is similar but not the same. Before we do, let's talk about the guitars. So, the Jaeger, would I be right in saying that is based on the Pioneer?
Yes, so the Pioneer was designed before, it was on paper before, it was all drawn out, mapped out, and just before that,
right the way back here.
There you go.
To go through the strap. Nice.
Yes. Just before I actually got to put the prototypes into production, the customer came over, saw it, and he was thinking along the lines of a jazz bass anyway, and said, "Do you think we could sort of blend and make this work?" And I said, "Yeah, love that kind of stuff." So I did. Yes, you can still see it's got the jazz bass kind of vibe about it, obviously, but the horns are like the same. The sort of contouring around the body, it went a little bit more on that one because that's what he wanted, but all around sort of where your forearm cut is all angled and stuff like that is all the same. So it's just a shame that it took me about 6 or maybe 9 months after that was with the customer to actually get the guitar that was designed before the bass out into the world.
And here it is. This is the P1 Pioneer.
Yeah, so the idea is that maybe at some point there will be a P2, well, there will be a P2 later this year, which, if you imagine the P1 is your stripped down, no frills, but a player's guitar that you can pick up and play every night, because I'm well aware some of my other guitars are a little bit heavy, when you start putting resin in.
Yes.
That doesn't make for a guitar that you want to pick up and play every night, know, or your back's not going to thank you for it. So with these, the idea was to keep them around that £6 mark finished, and that does limit as to what woods we can use, but then there are some unique features like my rear routing for all the pickups and stuff like that, which helps me keep it to that sort of weight. So these are customizable, but on the website there's drop down boxes for the options you can use. So I think a P1 is available in 32 different variations, so there's still quite a bit there. That's
a significant number of variations. I'll take that. But yeah, this is the pickups are really a lot further apart than you'd see on the traditional humbucker design, which I really appreciate. Something that I always say with like 22 versus 24 fret guitars is I don't like 24s because they have to compromise on the neck.
Push that neck pickup further back.
Yeah, and for me it's essentially a middle pickup at that point, which what I want a neck pickup for is that singing lead thing. But let's hear how it sounds on a rather forgiving sound with the reverb and delay. I've been around Henning too long. His playing skills are rubbing off on me.
That's what you are.
Does it rhyme with punt?
Yes.
But these are not particularly screaming output.
Well, interestingly, they're wound to about 17k in the bridge,
Right.
and 15k in the neck. But Alchemy, Jack, who winds them, there's something about it where I would say they definitely don't sound like that.
No.
They are marketed as his highly overwound PAF style, but if you go highly overwound, it's not really a PAF anyway.
Not anymore.
So,
no.
you know, but I think they still have that sound to them. So I want to say the numbers are a little bit misleading, but I mean, they can certainly handle a lot of gain really well, but they still seem, I know a lot of people don't like the humbucker clean sounds, but they still do it pretty well.
I do like a humbucker clean sound as long as it's not, like you say, overly dark. Single coils have their place, of course, but that kind of... That's got plenty of clarity for what I would want to do. If I want to go much brighter than that, especially on the kind of music I do, which is heavy, hard rock and metal stuff, if I'm going brighter than that, I tend to just substitute an acoustic in.
Right.
So I don't need that kind of, you know, Corey Wong melt your face off brightness. That's for other people.
Yeah.
Or if it is for a genuine single coil type guitar, which this is more of, I would dare to say, shred machine.
Yeah, it's a little bit that way. I have sold a few to people doing blues and blues rock and things like that. But I like to think it can handle most things. But you can see it's clearly geared up to look a certain way. The P2s with the exotic tops and the gloss finishes look even more set that way.
Yes.
But, you know, if you turn... I'm just doing one for a customer at the minute who wanted a slightly bigger headstock and normal orientation.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, it doesn't look as mean as they do in this configuration.
Right. This reminds me very much of the kind of the Blackmachine type idea.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. They've been doing that for so long.
Yeah,
it's like saying something reminds me of a Stratocaster. At this point, it's like...
Yeah, I'm pretty good friends with the chap who may or may not do B6s.
Ah!
So I've been chatting to him a while about it, and yeah, it's clearly something that I've got great admiration for.
But you can clearly see that it's not the same.
No.
Which I think counts for a lot. There's a lot of kind of... I mean... When you get into design, I think there are only so many popular designs because of things like the ergonomics work and so on for certain types of players. Like, I tend to play jazz bass type basses, not because I'm a Fender fanboy, but that shape sits nicely, etc., etc. Yeah. That it's the characteristics that... So you end up coming to similar conclusions.
Well, this is it. You know, like you say, how many... I was going to say how many chord progressions are there? There's millions, but essentially, you know...
You end up gravitating to...
Yeah, and with this, it was very much a, like, take all, because I am a player myself, take all those sort of ergonomic features that I want out of the guitar that will make it easier to play. At the same time, try and do your own thing, have your own bit of identity, but I think the trick is keeping that air of familiarity about it as well, so people can see other things in there or see where it's sort of inspired by other things, but hopefully it's its own thing.
That's it. Sorry, Brown. I'm stealing all your ideas. But that plays very quickly, very well. The neck isn't overly thin. It's not got the kind of thing that I like, which is the kind of paper thin thing. But it's not overly cumbersome. The guitar itself is really light. Which I believe you're also working on something even lighter at the moment.
Yeah. That would be Palona, because there's an issue with Swamp Ash, and the issue is no more. So, you know, it's been sort of over harvested. It's been attacked by the emerald borer beetle. Blah blah blah. Point is, something that was a staple of the industry. It's become very hard to find like good bits, very expensive. So we got to do something about it. And Polonia, I see a lot of the bigger chaps, the more established brands switching over to it, and I gave it a go, and yeah, it's a wonder wood. But the strat I'm doing at the minute for this customer is £4, 12 ounces on the mock-up. So it's still got to have a little bit of paint on the body, but I can't see it getting past £5.5 finished. Wow. So
I mean, this is light. I could easily hold this up just by the strap with a couple of fingers, but £4.12. That's going to fly away in a light breeze.
Yeah, again, he was very sort of open with the spec, so he let me sort of throw a few ideas at him. And with the neck's really pretty. It's Tasmanian blackwood with a matching fingerboard, and that's reclaimed. The Polonia's grown in a plantation, so in a way he can sort of get on his moral high horse and say that his guitar's a bit less detrimental to... Yeah, I'm not going to get on that high horse, but he can if he wants.
Let's hear a little bit of lead from this thing on that's super high up now. Sings, and my little princess fingers were going no, which is why I fell off a couple of those notes, because my fingers went, please stop, it's the third day, why? But yeah, that's a really smooth lead sound, and yeah, that is a really ergonomic feeling guitar, and because it doesn't weigh very much, it's not going to kill me. Now let's talk about something that I only saw, this is the first one of its kind.
Yeah.
So this
is a custom build for Rob Dix of RD Amplification, who built me an amp and said, would you build me a guitar? And I was like, of course. So
lovely.
In a second you could tell what it is based around. He again spec'd this up. He could have had what he wanted and wanted something like this, and I couldn't even what to call it. So, I mean, everybody knows what it's looking like, but his...
sorry, it's not the Corona, it's just... No.
It's very musical, man.
Yeah, but this was literally finished up the other night musical.
Looks like something Jamie Humphries would enjoy.
It certainly does. Him and his good mate, Ed. Yes.
So this one, I couldn't think of a name. He said, oh, I want my old service number, because he was in the police, put on it. So I said, well, we'll engrave it in the truss rod cover. And I just so unoriginal, I was like, let's just call it the 716. And maybe I actually really enjoyed building it because it was a bit different to the other stuff. I've been doing a lot of Pioneers at the time, going back to something a bit more classical. It's a 6-way freeway. Going back to something a little bit more classical orientation, it was quite pleasing, and he let me have a little bit of free rein on the wood choice, and a little bit of free rein on the colour, and then we went a little bit creative with the tortoise shell and just tortoise shelled the hell out of it. Truss rod cover, pick guard, cavity covers on the back, and I'm not sure, I'll have to see if we can get a torch on it, even on the front, that in the
oh yes, in the,
I don't know if that's going to pick up on cover, but what a great idea that was. Something I wish I never suggested was, we can get some mesh under and create this top, but I'd need to thin the material down to like 0.5 mil, and trying to do that in my drum sander, which is accurate, but it's not like 1/10 of a mil accurate. Every time I was trying to do it, it was just scraping that tiny bit too much off, where it left like a lot of the flex of the colours, but then you could see through it, and that meant by the time it was put over the black pickup, you couldn't see it. So that was a frustrating day of just keep recutting tortoiseshell and thinning it down. And in hindsight, it was like I probably could have just done this with, you know, a block and a bit of sandpaper a lot quicker than recutting and putting it on sleds with the drum sander. But, you know, if it was easy, what's the point?
Absolutely. So what's one thing that did interest me, let's get a little bit of sound about this, that Rob was telling me that they're coil taps but not quite coil taps.
Yeah. Really into his circuitry, obviously, like through his amps and that, and he wanted to go with the 6-way switch. So I forget the coil split, coil taps, and then he talks about frequency, certain things rolling off, and I was like, Rob, if you keep going, I'm going to have an out-of-body experience. I will wire this up. You call it what you want.
So yeah, there is the humbucker mode. But the coil tap is a partial coil tap, he was saying, so there's a resistor, so it's still got a little bit of the humbucker, because otherwise it would be super weedy because they're vintage pickups. Both very nice, usable. Well, of course, the humbucker's got a bit more stand-up and
Yeah,
it makes my head.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, made my head hurt wiring it up. Don't worry.
Bless you. And then we'll very quickly talk about this one, which weighs about as much as me.
Yeah. This is, I wanted to try and get in the Guinness Book of Records for the heaviest guitar ever made. It would have been lighter had I made it out of a piece of concrete. But no, in all seriousness, I have a friend who, carpenter, and he makes those crazy resin river tables.
Right.
And he was like, oh, Lewis, you've got to come over and make a guitar in this. And I was like, shut up, Alex.
Wait, Lewis got to close his eyes. Put your hand on your eyes.
It only focuses on...
There we go. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Adam, if you look at it, it doesn't work. Do it again. Stay behind it. Stay behind it. No, now we're talking. No.
That's the thumbnail right there.
I was like, shut up, Alex, you don't know what you're talking about. Nobody, it's just not going to work. And he wore me down. It was like a war of attrition. And in the end, I gave in. And I was like, do you know what? Let's do one. And it was an ice blue one with spalted beech. And yeah, I did a similar stain job on the neck, but I made it ice blue to match. This is obviously red and black. And yeah, well, more for me, because I took it to the first exhibition show and somebody took it there and then. So I was like, right, I need to do more of these, but there's a lot more that goes into them, because just casting the resin, you kind of got to think about where you want the river to be. It's not just like these, let's just glue a couple of bits of wood together, the grain looks nice there.
Yeah.
You had to think about it. Look, I've mounted, the bridge post is in there, half the pickup route is through it.
Right.
What you don't want, which I found out the hard way, is anything around I didn't do this, but obviously if you're doing a set neck, you don't want any resin river impeding that neck. And the other one is you do not want it anywhere near that control cavity, because you don't see it. Like normally, you put it somewhere, there's light behind it, you can see the perfect outline of your cavity, and it was a bit like, oh no, didn't think about that. But so it's worked around. So with this one, I thought we'll have a nice sort of diagonal river and a cheeky little red horn.
Gotta love the horn.
Yeah, and then decided to bind it. I've got some matching knobs as well. Who doesn't love a matching knob?
Absolutely.
And then
Henning.
I'm not gonna go there.
and
Your
then
face is a matching knob.
there we go. So then I thought for my 3-a-side headstocks, I'd do like a little, because they're all custom pieces. So for the 3-a-side resin rivers, I thought I would do this little inlay, and the crazy paving type inlay, which in itself contains ebony.
Eyes. Yep.
That's very nice.
So that's created with ebony, maple lines between it, and the red to try and match. I wanted something naturally that might get close. That's Madagascar rosewood, a little offcut from a bit of veneer I had. So that was quite time consuming, but quite one of those little things where it's like, I'm just going to do this today. And it's therapeutic. You actually have to make it a lot bigger than what you need to be able to cut it down, just because of the shapes of the crazy paving. So they're fun to make, but coming in at like £9 or just over £9, it's not this, you know, it's not something you're going to stand up and play every night. Don't get me wrong, you can still play it, but it's still, it's heavy. Your back is not going to thank you if you're doing 4 or 5 gigs a week every night with it. So
it's a showpiece for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone's going to, you know, even if somebody then once said, oh, can I have another one in walnut with red resin, it's not going to look the same. You know, it's going to be a completely different bits of wood. The river might not be in the same place, and then the swirls in the resin, they're all going to be different. You have to time that, by the way. As I again found out the hard way. Swirl it all up, looks amazing for about half an hour after it's been cast. You go into the workshop the next day and it's just gone completely flat. So then on another experiment we did, I went back on the second day, stirred it all up, but it was already starting to cure, and so that was just left all that in it, and I was like, no. So we found it 18 hours after casting, where whatever I'm doing, I then have to go back and stir the resin, basically. Right. So yeah, you have to bear that in mind, but then it takes a week to cure. So there's already that amount of work gone into it before you've even thought about, you know, cutting the body shape out. So there's more in it. But, you know, at the end payoff, I think, looks pretty cool.
Absolutely, it's gorgeous. So yeah, that's an option that Lewis will do for you if you really, 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 really ask nicely. And then when he tells you where to go, you then call him again.
That's it. Yeah, I will ask you 3 times. Not all at the same time, but I have to ask you 3 times before I commit to one of these.
Are you sure? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Are you really, really sure? But yeah, check out LT Custom Guitars. The website is down in the description. Thanks, Lewis, for coming on and taking my useless nonsense.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Anytime. And I'm sure we'll see much more of LT Custom Guitars because this is awesome stuff. Thanks, Henning, for switching and shaking his head at my jokes. And thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Mike, for putting on the British Boutique Guitar Festival. And thanks to everybody who's watched. Watch some of the other videos from the festival. There's some hilarious stuff on Henning's channel, apparently. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Hole Studios. See you there.